Okay, guys, welcome to another edition of What's Cookin' Jersey and More. This is actually a special edition. I'm going to be talking to Paulina Clementos, and correct me if I'm saying the other name, Derakesh. Am I saying it correct?
Yeah, that's my husband's last name,
Yeah,
Derek.
that's why I was saying I'm saying the full name. Um, Thanks to Johnny C, the pizza guy, and Jersey Roots, because if it wasn't for Jersey Roots, Paulina, I would have never reconnected with you. And this is a relationship that goes back a lot of years. I mean, how old were you when you were at Mr. Pizza?
When I started taking over with my dad,
Yeah,
I was 20 years old
yeah,
when I started taking over.
and I know
Although
you
I've
since
been
you were even
right.
younger than that.
Yeah, I was
Um,
working, helping my dad since I was 5 years old, actually.
I put that in the book, the pizza boxes that he used to pay you $1 for what, a bundle of
It
pizza
was
boxes.
1 cent per box, and the package has 100 boxes. So
Yeah.
every time I would finish a pack, he would give me $1. And as soon as he
See?
gave me the dollar, I would run next door to the supermarket and spend it.
There you go. There you go. So the reason why we're doing this is because your dad and his family, my mom was my inspiration for me for the love of cooking, but your family was my inspiration to become a business owner. I saw how tight knit the family was and how they worked together and how they built a little empire. I call them, the Greek connections. Tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about your dad.
Well, my dad, he was born in a small village here in Cyprus, which Cyprus is a small island in the Mediterranean, which is part of the European Union now. It's not a was never a part of Greece. It's its own country. It has its own president. At the time, it had its own currency. Greece had the drachma. Cyprus had the Cyprus pound. Now, because of the European Union, we're all under the euro currency. And so he was born in a village called Mazodos, a small village, and he met my mom, which they introduced him at the time. That's how things worked. My mom's village is the next village where I'm living now in Giti. And they got married. He was living in Limassol. They were living in Limassol at the time where my sister and I were born. And Limassol is a town an hour away from Larnaca. We're in Larnaca. And he used to be a truant officer. He used to work for the
Wow.
government at the time. And someone had told him that if you wanna make money and you wanna be able to support your family and be comfortable, the best thing to do is to move to America.
When did he come to America?
I was born in 1965, and in 1966, they took the ship and they moved to America. My mom said it was called the Queen Elizabeth, I believe, the ship.
Nice. And your dad
And
didn't
so it
start
was,
out
I think it was May.
May, and your dad didn't start out
May.
in the pizza business, did he? How did he start out?
No, when we went to America, my uncle Chris was in America at the time with his brother Ari. They were the two single brothers. And when we first went there, my uncle had rented an apartment for us because it was my father with his wife and two little girls. I was 10 months old. My sister was 3 years old. So it's not easy to go to a country you've never been to before and with a family and get started in a foreign country. So my uncle had everything ready for us. And I remember my mom saying he had the refrigerator full with food and fruit and all that. So my father had found a job. We were living in North Bergen at the time, Union City, and he found a job with a diner, Berkshire Diner, and he worked there for a few years. And then after he started working he found a job on the same, it's Berkshire Avenue with a place called Freddy's Pizza. And that's where he learned how to make pizza. It was this Freddy guy that taught him. And that's how he got into the pizza business. And his brother Ari, he told him, if you want to make money, you need to stay in the diner business. There's a lot of money in the diner business. My father, I guess, was blessed to be directed on another route. So he started with the pizza, and then that's how he continued in the pizza business from there.
And now the first pizzeria that he got involved with, which is something that I didn't know as we started talking again, was one of the first pizzerias I worked at too, was Romeo's Pizza. He met the Romeo family. Tell them a little bit about that. And he got involved in Passaic, I believe.
From Union City. At the time, my father, they decided to buy a house in Passaic Park. So they, when we moved to Passaic, then he got involved. He had met this Romeo, the guy who owned Romeo Pizzas, and he got him involved with the one in Passaic Park on Main Ave. He started working at that place, and that's where he taught his brother Spiro with the pizza business. And eventually, my father decided to leave his brother at that location, and Romeo took him to his other location in Bloomfield. And in Bloomfield is where he stayed a few years. I can't remember exactly how many years, but yeah, he stayed there a few years. And then from there,
Mr. Pizza in Lincoln Park, he was introduced to it. That's when he met Mr. Kurtz, I believe?
Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Kurtz, he happened to, he started getting into the Mr. Pizza chains. Bruno's, it was Bruno's on Route 46. Where he started, which was owned by the same Mr. Kurtz, Mr. Pizza. And he started working there, but then again, a year or two at that location. Then they opened a new location in Lincoln Park. Again, the Mr. Pizza franchise. He went to open the location in Lincoln Park. We stayed there a few years. Then my uncle took over, my uncle Andreas, which we call him Giko, which is my mother's side of the family, he is. So, and I believe you said you were working for him at the time.
Yeah, well, Saki started working for him.
Saki was working for him.
And he brought me, Sagi and I were like the best of friends in high school, even before high school. And he took me to Lincoln Park, and that's where my pizza career started.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah. So after Lincoln Park, then he went to, he did go to Mr. Pizza Route 3 at the time. But the guy who was in charge there, he was, my father and him didn't get along. He was actually taking the cups from the customers after they left, and he would rinse them off, and then he'd put them back to reuse them. So my father didn't like that. So he told Mr. Kurtz, he says, I can't work like this. So he went to Cresskill. They opened a Mr. Pizza there. Again, it was just to get things started to help. And then him and my uncle Chris decided to go in together in Leonia.
Right.
It wasn't a Mr. Pizza at the time. And again, a few months there, and then Chris decided to stay in that business on his own. So my father left again. And he ended up back, no, my dad started working at restaurants after. And Mr. Kurtz was looking for him because my father was an honest person and hardworking. And so Mr. Kurtz was looking for him, and he said, I want you to come back. And he says, for me to come back, I want you to help me. Well, I want you to help me. My father, he bought a house and he didn't have a lot of money. So he said, I want you to help me out, lend me $10,000 so we can go partners at Mr. Pizza Route 3. And then Mr. Kurtz lent him the money, and that was where we stayed. And I believe that was 1975, somewhere there.
Yeah, well,
Was
and you
it?
guys were, yeah, you guys were there for quite some time because I remember after bouncing around a little from Lincoln Park, I wound up working in when I was in high school on at Romeo's with Spiro, and I would come home from work on my my bicycle or my moped, and I would go to work there. And then we used to call him Silo, was Kevin, my good friend Kevin Bossy, that was the
Oh,
goalie in our
yeah.
soccer team. I taught him pizza, and he started working at Romeo's. And that's where Sagi said to me, come on, let's go work at Route 3. And like we were talking about before off camera, I wound up in Route 3. And remember Tuesday nights, we used to do the valet parking for the people from JP's Cafe. And we started becoming entrepreneurs through
Yeah.
your family. We were making extra money parking the cars for the nightclub. And we had the pizza business too. And
Yeah.
like I said, your family is going to be involved in a lot more. This is volume one of our book that just up to here it goes. But I'm involved with your family. Your Uncle Abe, I was involved with in almost all his places. The one Clifton Pizza, Abe's Pizza, you know. So it goes on to probably early college that I worked with your family. And then I went back to Chris and I worked in Rutherford with Chris. And then Chris eventually, which I just found out today, I was heartbroken to hear that Chris passed away, your Uncle Chris, about 7 years ago.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
was probably one of the nicest guys to me because I remember La Gondola Pizzeria that I had in Lyndhurst. I had gone through 9 years. I took it over from an unsuccessful pizza guy, and we turned it into one of the top pizzerias in Lyndhurst. And when my lease was almost ready to expire, he wanted to ambush me. He wouldn't give me a new lease. So I talked to Chris, and you know how Chris used to be. He wheeled and dealed all the time. He turned around, he goes in, he goes, Umberto, he used to call me Berto. Berto, I help you out. He came in, he bought it. He pretty much gave me what I paid for it. And he went in and he goes, I said, but you only got 1 year lease. And he doesn't want to, he goes, I'll fix him. And he turned around, he threatened him. He said, listen, the house for next door is for sale. I'm going to buy the house and then you can't compete against me. The guy gave him 20-year lease. Chris stayed there for about 6 months and he did what Chris always does. He sold it to the other Chris that took it over and Chris moved on. I have a great love for your Uncle Chris too, because he, along with your dad, along with Abrami and the rest of your family, Sagi. I mean, I'm still doing this. I'm actually working on a new place that we're building now and got involved in the pizzeria and the restaurant business. And like I said, we'll be hearing a lot more about your dad and your family in volume two. But I felt compelled after, you got back in touch with me for us to turn around and reconnect. And hopefully, by the time we're doing volume two, I'm supposed to go to Italy next year, keeping my fingers crossed. If I do that, I'll let you know in advance, and maybe we'll surprise you guys and come out to Cyprus and we'll do a live segment out there.
Yeah, oh, you should because my cousins now have a pizzeria here in Giti as well at our town, and yeah, definitely you should.
Well, that's Mario now, right? Mario?
Mario, yes.
Did you talk to him since we've spoken?
I just when I told him that you sent him a friend request on Facebook, I told him that's Bert from US, and he's like, oh yeah, I don't. He accepted, right?
Yeah, he did. He accepted. And the one thing he'll always remember me by is the Bee Gees song Tragedy.
Yeah.
We used to make a joke on that. And he'll remember it was me, it was Mario, and Kipros. We went to our first big concert at the Meadowlands, Boston, Poco. We were all there, all three of us were there together with a couple other friends. So, like I said, we had gotten very close. Mario, Kip, myself. I still talk to Kip every now and then. He's now retired, but he had the place, Sorrento's in Avenel.
No.
But Pauline, this has been a pleasure talking to you. I can't wait to reconnect a little bit more. I can't wait till volume one is done. I'm going to personally send you the first copy out because, like I said, your whole family has been inspirational to me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It was really nice to connect. Thank God for Jersey Roots because
Absolutely.
I wrote that small bit and yeah, there were a lot of people they remembered, they we used to come be customers and yeah.
Well, your family was always loved. And you know what? It showed. That's like my motto I say to people. And I learned this. I don't remember if it was your father or if it was Chris, that when you serve a customer, it's got to come from your heart to your hands to the customer. And that's my motto now. I have it in all my stuff, but I learned that from it was either your dad, which I find it,
It
and
sounds
Chris
like
was
my
always,
dad.
yeah, and Chris was the same way too. Chris used to give out.
Yeah,
I said, why are you giving out all these slices? Don't worry, Berto. You give out a little bit to people they're not going to forget. And
yeah,
he was right. That your
yeah,
family, great pioneers of this business, way ahead of their time. And
yeah.
I thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me on a Sunday morning. Well,
No,
Sunday
thank
afternoon
you.
by you.
Yeah, it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah. One thing I missed, I don't know if we cover it after, but it was my father that taught all his brothers and nephews. They all learned from him the pizza business. That's
Yes,
where they all
yes,
started.
yes. Well, and he proceeded through
And
his
he taught,
channels. Through his
yeah,
channels,
yeah,
I learned.
and he taught. There were customers that wanted to. There was I remember a family from India, and they wanted to open a pizzeria in India, and he would sit there and teach them. He taught everyone. He taught me everything I knew.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, your dad was definitely a great man, and he's going to be missed along with Chris.
Yeah.
Now that I found that today, he'll be missed also. But let's keep in contact.
Yes.
And again, I thank you so much for taking your time out. Guys out there, this is Chef Umberto. And for What's Cooking, Jersey, and more, live from Cyprus, Tante Bella cose. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you, Pauline.
Thank you. Thank you, Bert. Thank you very much.
All right. Bye-bye now.
Bye. Bye.